Keith Wood, it's absolutely Baltic. We're looking out here in Thomond Park and we can see the lights in the other stand, but we can barely see the rest of the pitch. Munster have lost by 5 points to Toulouse, 18 points to 13. Can I get your response and your reaction to that performance?
Well, in looking at the performance, I would say that Munster performed nearly to the top of their ability. I know they had a few mistakes in the second half, some knock-ons, some forward passes, some no hands going up to catch the ball, a few silly sort of penalties that went as well. That happened, but I felt they were at least trying to grow into the game enough to be in contention at the end of it. They didn't quite get there. To be honest, I think they're trying to change their style of play. That's good news, and it looks like they are getting there, but I don't think they were good enough at it today against an incredibly good defensive outside God, my so-called outfit. But Toulouse, on the other hand, I don't think got outside of third gear. They were comfortable all the time. They knew how to put Munster under pressure. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. They didn't try to do too much. They always felt as if they could go down the other side and get a score. And the truth of it is they got in maybe 2 or 3 times and got that score when they needed.
There's a few things there. You mentioned that Toulouse didn't get out of third gear. Munster probably dominated the first 20 minutes or so. And next thing, I think Toulouse entered the Munster 22. Could have been the first time, and 60 seconds later we have a try in the corner and Ramos converts to the touchline. How can they just switch it on like that? Like, there's 5 Grand Slam winners in the team, but it was scary how they could just switch it on, wasn't it?
I would look at the Toulouse team as being maybe 6 or 7 years in the making. They know exactly what they need to do. They have a huge sense of comfort. They're also a really big team, so they know that their forwards can soak up every single bit of pressure, and they know that they have the players with the skill and the speed when required. So on the 3 or 4 times when they got in there, they didn't panic. They actually know that if they hold the ball for a period of time, they know they can get a score at the end of it. And so for me, it looked incredibly professional, incredibly confident. I would say they're thrilled to bits that they came over here. There was 22 or 3,000 people at this crowd. It was a really good atmosphere, strange atmosphere because of this crazy fog, and it being -4 or 5, it is freezing here. And I would say that they're thrilled that they came over here to this famous ground. They did a professional job and they get the hell out of town, and I think that's what they wanted to do.
You mentioned that Munster are building something at the minute and they're changing things. What were you impressed by today from their performance?
I think when I looked at the performance today, there were good tip-ons lots of the time. They look far more comfortable with the ball in hand. Actually, the most comfortable they've been for 6 or 7 years, I would say. They look a little bit shy. There's been a few injuries to the side. They need a couple of big second rows back. You know, it was great to see Keith Earls coming on. I thought it could have been a master stroke from Rowntree. Brought him on, raised the whole crowd, kind of reacted to the fact that Keith Earls was coming onto the field. But they look to be more confident, wanting to play a little bit faster. I think they suffered a little bit playing against one of those very big teams today. I think they would have beaten a huge number of the other teams in the competition, but they're playing one of the top teams today and they only lose by 5 points. I know that's scant consolation, but I do think they can see elements of that changing. I think the crowd would react accordingly. It isn't as if Munster weren't trying anything today. They tried many things today. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, because that's part of the journey.
It was Rowntree's first European game as a head coach. He's just speaking to him briefly after the match. At half-time, they spoke about winning the first 10 minutes of the second half. It was 10 points apiece at that stage, and within 60 seconds there's a try. So there'll be elements of sloppiness that he won't be happy with.
Well, you can't be happy when a ball goes past off the right hand to no one, and you and I were sitting here. Can he actually see the guy he's trying to pass to, or what was it? And it happened 3 or 4 times in that second half, and that actually put Munster under huge pressure. Where Munster are on their journey at the moment, playing against teams like Toulouse, is they can't afford to make any mistakes at all. That's one of the really difficult things, because you still want to have the joy and the ability to express yourself on the field. I actually felt they were doing that a lot. They just need to be able to do it a little bit sooner, a little bit quicker, and that's the confidence thing that has to be built with it. So So I'm not critical of the team of this. I'm critical of guys not holding up their hands. I'm critical of guys falling off their feet or going in over the top, because that's difficult for a team to be able to sustain that all the time. But the one part I will say is they were put under a huge amount of pressure, and mentally those mistakes do happen.
There's been a wee bit of momentum with them since they came back with 2 wins in the URC since the November internationals. A decent performance in many ways here today against one of the strongest sides in the competition. What needs to happen next weekend against Northampton?
I think when we look at the rest of this competition, Munster go all out to win the next 2 games, and if they don't do it, they don't do it. And I think the level of expectation for this Munster side over any other one, because of maybe the dearth of some of the big stars that are playing and the dearth of overseas stars that are playing there at the moment, is that the team progresses and has a very good level of performance. This is a 7 out of 10 performance, right? They need to be 9 out of 10 when they play for Munster in a European Cup. When they go to Northampton next week, that's what they'll be looking for those home and away matches, are 9 out of 10 performances to try and get them to some chance to progress in this competition.
Finally, the conditions were something else. Bit of freezing fog. You said it wasn't too bad in Killaloe when you were driving over this morning. I didn't think it was great on the way over. It definitely got worse as the game went on. We even saw Toulouse doing a wee warm-up at half time before they come back out for the second half. What's it like playing rugby in conditions like this?
Well, this is the kind of craziness of this competition at the present moment in time. So you described it as Baltic, and it's -4 or 5 now, and it's ludicrously free. I mean, my page froze my page froze onto the counter in front of me because there was a bit of water on it. It froze over. Some teams played yesterday at altitude at 32 degrees, and trying to go from one to the next. At some stage you say, you have to kind of tone something down. How hard this is, you're just trying to stay warm. You're trying to get past the game. And I know people who say, God, these are professional and that's what they have to do. These are extraordinarily difficult conditions. The lone Munster voice that comes out of the fog, yeah. Is that a loon, is it?
Last question, what's the coldest you've ever played in?
I think I played up in Newcastle. I think it was -7 or -8. And I remember definitely being in Paris for an Ireland-France game that got cancelled. It was -9 in the stand that day, and was catching the wind where we were. I was wearing 2 coats and 2 hats that day. I fell afoul of the BBC's no sponsorship element. I had sponsors everywhere because I was frozen solid, but that game was cancelled actually.
Well, you had all the layers on today, Keith. Pleasure covering the game with you. It's finished up here. Munster 13 points, Toulouse 18 points in the Heineken Champions Cup. Keep an eye on Off the Ball across the week. We'll have loads more for you in the OTB Rugby feed. Talk soon.